Hi, I'm Jen from Tea Leaves and Tweed, and here I talk about tea and everything that goes with it, so if that sounds like something you like, be sure to subscribe to follow more of what I do. This week on Baking with Jen, I'm making a treat to go with tea and that has tea in it. I'm making Matcha Madeleines. So recently on Instagram, I posted a poll asking if people would prefer that I start posting Matcha Basics videos midweek to replace some of my Baking with Jen videos, and I put it in a rather tongue-in-cheek fashion by asking if you preferred matcha or cake. And my friend Marco from Steeped decided to respond that he wanted matcha cake. So this is a recipe just for you, Marco. These are Matcha Madeleines, which a madeleine is a small shell-shaped French cake. They're actually a really interesting recipe. It dates back to about the 18th century or possibly earlier. And the original madeleine recipes don't have any leaveners in them. There's no baking powder or baking soda or yeast. They're solely leavened by eggs and the air that you whip into the batter. So I thought that was really interesting from a historical perspective. And they're so easy to make. So this is my recipe for matcha madeleines, but you can flavor them with whatever you want. Now, the first thing to know about madeleines is that one of the most important things is preparing your pan correctly. So madeleines are made in this specialty pan that is shaped like little shells, and because it has these little ridges, it needs to be buttered and floured very thoroughly. So here I have my madeleine tin already buttered and floured. What I do is I melt my 6 tablespoons of butter, and then I use about a half to a full tablespoon of that butter to grease the tin, and then I sift over some flour and tap out the excess into the sink. So I've got my pan nice and prepared. We'll put that to the side and start making our batter. So as I said before, the only leavener that we have is an egg and the air that we whip into the batter. So I have not found any way to get around using an electric mixer. So first, we want to whisk together our egg, a third of a cup of sugar, and I'm going to add a pinch of salt. And I'm going to whisk this together until it gets lighter in color and quite thick. Now you can see this has gotten much lighter in color, and it's thick enough that when I move the whisk around, it leaves kind of a track, almost like a ribbon. And of course, this is where I would add any liquid flavorings that I'm using. I've made madeleines with almond flavoring, with orange blossom water. My sister used to make them with orange zest and orange juice. My sister is the master of making madeleines, so I strive to be as good as she is. So now that we've got this all whisked together, we want to add in our dry ingredients and sift those in. So we're going to add some flour, some ground almonds, and some matcha powder. And sift these all in, and then mix it all together. So now that I have that mostly mixed in, I'm going to add my butter. And this is 6 tablespoons of butter minus about the half to 1 tablespoon that I use to grease the tin. I've melted it and I've let it cool for a while, and I'm just going to stream this in while I beat it. Just going to make sure that I don't have any pockets of dry ingredients. can see the beautiful color of this batter. So now I want to add about a tablespoon to each little well. All right, now these are ready to go into a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, and I usually rotate the pan halfway through baking. So now I've baked my madeleines and allowed them to rest for 5 minutes in the pan and then turned them out onto a cooling rack. I have them here. I'm having them with a little Hongjingui oolong from Couples Tea Shop in Baltimore. This is a beautiful low oxidized oolong from Anxi in Fujian province. And it's just so floral, but somehow a little bit different from a Taeguanyin. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love the fragrance, and it's just because it's lower oxidized and it's not roasted, it's a greener oolong. It's perfect for these warmer days and these late spring days. So now let's talk about our madeleines. So you can see the shell pattern came out. They're very brown, but on this side they have that beautiful green color. And they're tender and light. Beautifully green on the inside. I love the texture that the almond flour gives to them. Just that little tiny bit of almond flour gives them such an interesting texture. The matcha flavor comes through beautifully, which makes sense because I used plenty of it. You could definitely make these with less matcha. They're perfect with this buttery, floral oolong tea. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Baking with Jen, where I shared a recipe for a matcha cake, or at least a matcha petite cake, in the form of these matcha madeleines. Thank you for joining me for this baking video, and I hope I see you around sometime. Bye.